there, so he's going to be feeling that probably a little bit later on.
Wow, great work from our crew to catch that one. I'd like to talk to Brian Mullins about that big save.
Welcome everybody. Thanks for joining us again for the next installment of Florida Moto Talk, where we come together to talk about motorcycles. We talk about used bike deals, we talk about racing, pretty much anything to do with bikes and two wheels. We talk about it or plan to talk about it. And today we're just continuing that same tradition. We have another unique guest on the show tonight, and hey, we're just gonna hop right into it. How are you doing over there, Tristan?
I'm good. Just got back from vacation. Did not work out at all. Ate way too much ice cream. So basically did everything I was supposed to do. Got home late yesterday and squeezed this in today. Sorry to interrupt everyone's Easter. How you doing, Tuna?
What's up?
So if you couldn't tell, our guest is Brian Mullins. Yeah, we're good. We're good. So our guest is Brian Mullins. I guess this will be our second in a series of interviews with pro racers. If you do not know Brian, then you must not be paying any attention to the racing scene, because this guy is everywhere. From AMA rounds to WIRA to wreckers to checkers to racing cars, like dirt track cars and stuff. This guy does it all. So welcome, Mr. Mullins. How you doing?
Hello, I am doing well. How are you guys?
Doing
We're good. We're good.
Good.
So we'll start this where it all started. How did you get into motorcycling to begin with?
So motorcycling, I guess, when I was in high school, I raced go-karts, and we were super poor. Like, my family was broke, man. And my parents went through a divorce, and I would skip school pretty often. And on the way to my school, there was a go-kart shop called Galaxy Karts and Parts. And I would stop in and talk to him about go-kart racing and stuff. And over the course of some time, I ended up working there. And I was watching the shop on a weekend when he was out of town for a race one time, and there's a CR250 there, and I locked the doors. It was a customer's bike, man. You know, poor decisions, but I locked the doors and taught myself how to ride it on the street next door. It was like a gravel access street, and over the course of the next 8 or so hours, I probably wrecked it 60 times, and ended up calling my girlfriend at the time to come pick me up. Like, I was fucked up. I was, road rash from my head to my toes because I wasn't wearing any gear. I didn't know how to ride it. I'd hit the throttle and flip it and get back on, start it back up and do it again and again and again. But, it was a feeling that I had never felt. And I loved it. And I ended up having to fix the dude's bike, obviously. And, I called the owner the next day. I'm like, so I wrecked your customer's bike. And he's like, oh, man, how'd that happen? I was like, well, it happened about 60 times. And so, it was a heavy bill. And I fixed it. I ended up buying it off the guy and sold all my go-kart stuff and attempted to race arena cross. Like, I rode it in the woods one time, and the next time that I was on it was entering a race, an indoor motocross race, and I didn't know how to jump, and that's definitely important when you're doing arena cross, is being able to jump. And so I wrecked a bunch, and I ended up doing that for about 2 years. And I had a street bike, an old Suzuki Katana, which is where tuna comes from, can of tuna.
Yeah.
And we rode the streets, back roads, a whole bunch, man, and people were getting hurt. People were getting killed, and some of my buddies started doing track days. I didn't know what they were. And they ended up persuading me to save up money to do a track day because, you know, it's not cheap. And it was arguably cheaper back then. But I saved up for, man, like a month and got a suit, got some boots, and took my katana, my 94 katana, to the track and did really well. I loved it. And I think I was bumped. You know, you got to start off in beginner class. And then before lunch, I was bumped to intermediate. And last session of the day, I was bumped to expert. And still didn't know shit. Didn't know anything, man. I was just winging it. And but people, they were walking around, oh, you're the guy on the katana, can of tuna, can of tuna. So everybody called me can of tuna for like fucking years. And you know, I haven't owned a katana since 2009, and everybody still calls me tuna. So you don't get to pick your nicknames. But that's how I got started.
And can you confirm that motorcycles are more fun than go-karts, or what? Because go-karts look pretty sweet.
God, yeah. Yeah, I mean, it for sure. Go-kart, you know, that's the thing though. Motorcycles are great. You know, you can ride them to work. You can go pay your rent, pay your child support. And if you're on a bike running errands, like, it's all right. My kids raced go-karts for a little while too, and now they're on the bikes. But yeah, motorcycles are amazing. It changed my life. I don't know what I would do. I'd probably be in prison if I never found motorcycles.
So how soon after that first track day did you start racing? And it sounds like you did your race class with a previous guest of ours.
Yeah. So my first track day was at Putnam Park, up, you know, outside of Indianapolis. I live in Cincinnati, and so it's basically the closest track. If someone starts racing, they kind of start off at Putnam Park. Nowadays, they can go to Corvette Museum, but they didn't have that back then. You know, we're talking 2009 is when I did my first track day. Oh, no, I'm sorry. The end of 2008. It was like October. And then the very next time I was on a racetrack was in Jennings, and I was doing the race school to get my race license. And by that time, you know, I sold the katana, sold everything else I had. I don't think I paid my rent. I took my student loans for college and bought a race bike. I don't recommend that. But yeah, you know, I'm still got student loans, and some of it paid for that old race bike. But yeah, so my second time on the racetrack was to get my race license at Jennings, Florida. And yeah, Joe Giannato was there. We did the race school together. And I didn't even know who he was. I mean, he's from Florida. I'm from Ohio. So we ended up seeing each other at some races, I think, the following year. But I don't think it was until like 9 years later that Joe's like, hey, we did our race school together. And I'm like, holy shit, that's crazy.
So, and then you started doing Wira first, correct? Because I think I met you in 2010, 2011 when you were racing my dad and I was pit bitching for him.
Yeah. Oh, William. Your dad's awesome, by the way. I hope he's doing well.
Yeah, he's all right. You know how he is.
He's probably doing his own shit, not talking about it, right?
Pretty much, yep.
Yeah, that's how he was then.
Yeah.
But yeah, I started racing Wira right away. I think my first year, again, just trying to figure out how to do it all. My first year, I think I only did, 3 rounds, maybe, just because I couldn't afford it. But I think I raced Nashville Super Speedway, which they don't race there anymore, and raced VIR and raced a Jennings round. That might be it, my first year. But yeah, started racing right away on that old F2, and then I built. I ended up buying an EX500 really cheap. That's what I raced your dad on a bunch. And God, man, at that point, I've had my race license for 14 years, 15 years. So I've raced tons of shit at this point. Kids.
Yeah. So, do you remember much about the VIR weekend where the infamous "Tuna Can Fly" video came from?
Oh man, yeah, that's a good video. No, I was chasing your dad, man. Your dad was a good rider, good racer, had the coolest bike in the paddock, and your dad had a really good bike for the class, and I just kind of had a bike that could run in the class. So I battled him a ton, and I was chasing him, man, giving it everything I had, and I never thought I could high side an EX 500 under throttle. And I found the limit, shot myself to the damn moon, and in the video it looks like I was melted into the pavement. Like, I don't know how I didn't break anything, but recovered. I think I stitched the bike back together and raced later that day. But yeah, that was chasing your dad 100%, man. I'm glad he got it on video. We battled. That was a fun race.
Well, I believe you had a yellow helmet at the time, and you found some yellow duct tape and slapped it over all the scuff marks to get by the tech guys. And I think you were racing again like an hour later.
Yeah. I I put duct tape on the helmet, but when I went back to tech afterward, I brought someone else's helmet because I was like, I don't even want them to look at my helmet. I borrowed a helmet and fucking lied. And yeah, the bike was 100% held together with zip ties and hopes and dreams. But yeah, fixed it and went right back out.
As you should. As you should.
I mean, I don't promote lying to tech inspection, but you know.
No one would ever do that.
First and only time.
Yes. So going from those days, what was the progression like to getting into like AMA or MotoAmerica, the pro racing?
Yeah, back then, nope. Kids. Nope. Yeah, back then it was, I had a buddy, my buddy Brandon Schweitzer. He was fast. He was a local fast guy. And he was doing pro rounds. Like, it was his goal. He wanted to go out, run the show, be part of it all. And, I'm not sure if he wanted to do it just for like the notoriety of it or, to reminisce. That's why I do it, honestly. Like, I go out, have a good time. I pay for it all myself. I don't give a shit what anybody else thinks about what I'm doing, honestly. I do it so in 20 years, when I'm broke and I'm a broken down old man, I can sit on my porch and watch my races from 30 years prior and be like, I did cool shit, To me, it's all about just making memories. Like, I want to do the best I can, but I'm realistic about my expectations, and those expectations are to make the show and have fun, man. There's a lot of people that do this and do not have fun, and they're all concerned what everybody else thinks about what they're doing, and that's like the furthest from my mind.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Brandon was running, and I was helping him out, going to races. I think I went to 3 rounds with him. It was, I don't know, his pit bitch or his crew chief, whatever the hell he wanted to call it. And so he did it, and I was like, well, I can do this too. And made it a plan to do it. And my first pro rounds was at Road America. And it was on a beat up old GSXR. I bought the bike for $3,500. No quick shifter, no power commander, fucking slip on exhaust, and went and entered pro races. And back then you could, the Supersport class, they were all 600s. There were guys with nice stuff, but literally I had to just patch together bike with a spray paint job and went and ran, and it was a blast, man.
So you're kind of the perfect guest to have on here, because our 2 favorite things are racing and track riding and buying used bikes, which I know you have a bike shop. I think you do some bike flipping and stuff. But also you came up with this whole wreckers to checkers idea. which is kind of like something we want to do with a second bike type of thing. Is we've got our nice bikes, and then we want a budget bike to go rat around on. So how did that all come about? How did you execute that? Like, what was the goal?
With Wreckers to Checkers itself?
Yeah.
So, pro racing, I ran, and it really came about because of pro racing. So, I ran 2014, 2015, and I think I'm sorry, 2013, 2014, I ran one pro race in 2015. And then I stepped away and focused on endurance racing for the most part. And then I started racing pro again in 2020, maybe 2021. And in that amount of time, it went from AMA Pro to MotoAmerica, and so much had changed. Not just ownership and management, but holistically, pro road racing just drastically changed. And then running Supersport, like I said, you could have some bullshit and still go race and make it and do okay. But there were very few teams back then that had engineers to work on the data acquisition and telemetry and shit. It just wasn't really there. And now with the next gen rule set, because you've got, whatever the hell the V2 is, 950, 955 cc's, whatever the hell that thing is. And then you've got 750 GSXRs and R6s and GSXR 600s, GSXR 750s, and the Triumph. You're performance indexing all these different bikes, and the best way for a race organization to do that is through the electronics. So now, instead of having a fucking Power Commander or a Bazaz, you've got a $5,000, $6,000, $8,000, $9,000 electronic system to just make bikes equal, or as equal as they can make them performance wise. So you can't go get a $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 bike. It's fucking impossible. So at least to run Supersport. So when I went back to pro racing, I had a twin. I had a SV650, which was a really nice SV650, but for an SV650, it was really nice. And then the R7 came out, and the 660 Aprilia came out, and then all of a sudden, man, if you had an SV, you weren't doing shit. You could be the fastest guy out there, and you're not finishing top 10. And not that I had any forethought of finishing that well, but so then the twins became okay. My SV was, I think I sold the thing for like $6,500, because as soon as the better, more advanced competition came out, the SV value went to the toilet. And so I was kind of aggravated with it, the Twins Cup, because now you couldn't have a $6,000 bike. You had to have a $20,000 bike. And to me, to have a $20,000 lightweight bike is fucking retarded. So I sold it, and I'm like, I'm going to build the cheapest Supersport bike imaginable. And that was the plan. That was Wreckers to Checkers. And I got a hold of a buddy got a hold of me, and he had a 765 Triumph that he bought at auction, and it was fucked, man. It was pretty bad. And so we built from that platform, just because I got the bike for like $1,200. And it's a 2020 765 RS, which just happens to be the homologated bike for Supersport. And I bought it, and we were bullshitting about it. And I reached out to a couple of my buddies that were doing, they do like audio video stuff. They run a couple social media pages for local breweries. And I reached out to them, and they had done a bunch of motorsport stuff. And I was like, hey, do you guys want to do this project and build the scabbiest ass pro bike and go race? And they were like, yeah, that sounds amazing. And I'm like, all right. So as long as there's some beer around, those guys are on the hook. And, you know, as long as we have a good time, if it becomes not fun, they're going to bail out super quick. But so that was the goal. And last year we were very open about it, we're not going to finish worth shit. Our goal is to just make the race. And when we went to Road Atlanta, by the time I sold and traded and bartered, I was $8,500 into that Triumph, and it was on the grid, qualified for the races, finished the races on an $8,500 bike that has $5,500 in electronics. So it had stock suspension, stock rear sets. Man, there were SV650 parts on it. It had a $30 Chinese eBay muffler on it. Like it was so cheap that it was borderline, you know, not the safest machine. But we went through tech, and Teague was like, if you guys weren't some Joe Blow and you were like an established team that showed up to run, I would not let you run this machine. And he gave me a verbal list of things to fix before we went to the next round. And, it was cool though, man. You know, we finished, we qualified. You know, we didn't ask for any concessions. We didn't ask to make the show because we were there or some bullshit. Like, I made it. Xavi Flores went out and cut a crazy time, and I made it on my last flying lap and qualified in by 1/10 of a second. And I was like, we made it. You know, the whole goal, the whole 2 months leading up to it was all worth it at that point.
Yeah, for sure. And I remember watching that video, and it's a really well done video, by the way, and a really, really cool idea. And I remember like specifically, yeah, like the footage from like where you first got the bike and the thing is just all soda canned and you just bring it into the garage and just get to work. But I'm wondering, were you like specifically looking for a Triumph, the 765, or is that just kind of like what you ended up with?
No, it's what we ended up with it. And to be honest, at the time, I wasn't too keen on the Supersport rules. So I just saw that the bike was homologated. My buddy offered me one cheap, and I bought it. And then as we're tearing into it, I'm like, oh, I've got to get this, I've got to get that. You know, I'm making a list of parts I need. And I don't even remember who it was. Somebody reached out to me, and they're like, how much are the electronics for that? And, you know, we're talking about it. I'm like, I don't know, normal prices. And he's like, no, that's a next-gen bike. You've got to have this solo engineering kit and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, I don't even know what the hell that is. So then I start looking, and the bare bones electronics kit was like $5,500. And I was like, well, fuck, there goes our budget, you know? I was planning on having the bike on track for like, you know, $4,500 or something. And then that was impossible. So... no, I had no intentions of running the Triumph, and to my knowledge, I'm the only rider that has fielded a Triumph outside of the TOBC bikes, and now this year altogether, there were quite a few Triumphs at Daytona, but Daytona is not, you know, it's not a MotoAmerica weekend, it's Daytona.
Yeah.
So on the regular schedule, I think I'm still the only guy or gal, the only racer to pilot a Triumph. So it was a bad decision. Don't do it. Fuck. There was no forethought. We got this bike. This is what we're going to build off of. And I think I bought and flipped maybe 3 bikes in the process to make the money for this damn thing. Because it's a Triumph, you know, like a GSXR, shit. You can buy wheels 10, 12 years ago that you can still use on a current bike. You know, parts interchangeability is awesome, and there's millions of them. And the Triumph is kind of defined market, and then so you're searching for used parts that have about 1/10 of the availability of a Suzuki or an R6. I mean, hell, that bike you can use parts from back in like 2007 on some of them. So no, we didn't plan to use that. I just planned to run the class. And it just kind of evolved into what it became. And you know, now the bike's pretty nice. We got the spec engine, because that's another thing. Not only is $5,000 electronics minimum, to make the damn thing start. Then you're supposed to have a spec engine kit, which is a Moto 2 engine kit is what they call it. But it's a different cylinder head, different oil sump, different cams, different valve train altogether. And that's, that kit is another $3,800. Then, we got suspension for it, got a shock, redid the valving on the front end. And now I went all out. I figure, the second rendition of Wreckers to Checkers is to make the bike legitimate, right? So now I got the engine, got the suspension, got telemetry, got front and rear telemetry pots, got brake pressure sensors so that we can, and for the first time in my life, we're going to run data acquisition, and which is like a full-time job, taking all that information, and making it make sense. So we're going all out this year, and I hope to not perform as bad. I'm just going to do better.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it seems like MotoAmerica is trying to discourage people from coming into the sport. You think with all those crazy requirements and everything, and that cost of entry as far as all the higher end stuff that they're requiring with that bike, do you think it would have been easier even just going like with the R6 or something like that? Or are you still looking at about all the same type of budget requirements, even with a Jap bike?
Well, that's what's interesting. So when we built this last year, literally this time last year, I was told that every bike in 2024 was going to be a next-gen rule set. So all of them, at that point, I was under the impression they would all have to have that electronics kit so that they can go into the ECU, make sure everyone's running the same map and everything. But they didn't. And so now they're saying that's pushed off till 2025. And the reason being is there's not enough infrastructure. Last year, we drove to Bobblehead Moto, which is 8.5 hours from my house, to dyno tune the damn bike because no one around here was either willing to take it on or they didn't know the software. So, and you can go to, any Joe Blow all across the country and they can dyno tune your Power Commander or even Woolwich at that point. Yeah. So they implemented these rules that they did not have enough infrastructure to support, especially for your average guy. Your weekend warrior, my neighbor isn't going to fucking drive 8 hours to have his bike dyno tuned so he can race MotoAmerica, whereas you could previously, you could run a Power Commander or Woolwich or whatever system you wanted. And so now they're saying that every bike next year will be next gen rules. So right now you can have an R6 and not have the solo engineering kit and the Mectronic ECU. You don't have to have it right now. And same thing with the GSX-R 600, same thing with the ZX6, but the Triumph has to have it, the Ducati has to have it, and the GSX-R 750 have to have it. And I think the MV Agusta, I'm not real sure, but I think there's only one dude, Danilo, that ran that. So as of last year and this year, hell yeah, you could get an R6 and go run for, half the cost because you don't have to have the electronics and everything. You could pick up an old, one that's still homologated. I think the year in Supersport, you can go 8 years back. So you can get an older R6 and go run legally and arguably do better, if not as good as a next-gen bike that has all the electronics.
Sweet. And with like the qualifying times too, I'm glad y'all made it in, by the way, even though it was by a tight margin, man, because it made for some great content for sure. But when you have guys that just show up and throw down a burner like that in the qualifying, do you see a lot of privateer guys that get eliminated because of that, or is that something that usually that happens a lot? Or
yeah, so by the rules, right, in Supersport, you've got to qualify within 108% of the fastest lap in any recorded session. Mm-hmm. So it makes it really hard. And there's nothing you can do, you know, like you can only do as good as you can, is my mentality. So if I look and I say, oh, you know, I don't know, Hayes or someone just dropped a full second, you know, what am I going to do? Like, I'll look at it and go, okay, well, I'm going to try to drop another second, whether it happens or not, who knows? And that happened throughout last year. And, you know, it happens every weekend. And yeah, guys do get eliminated. And there are some concessions, like you can, if you were qualified in during a session, but not overall, you can go to them and say, hey, you know, I was in, but this happened. Or if you have a bunch of mechanical failure or something, say you blow an engine and you don't get to go out and qualify until the last session, then you can reach out to them. And as long as you can argue your point, a lot of times they will be like, okay, you know, it's not your fault 100% that you sucked. You had all this happen. We haven't had to do that, thank God. But it does happen pretty regularly. And MotoAmerica is pretty good about it, you know.
It's interesting. So there's a lot of guys that are showing up that just aren't getting the chance to race because of that.
Yeah, I mean, not a lot, but so we can use Atlanta as the example, right? I was the last guy to qualify in the show, but there was a whole row of bikes behind me. There were 4 more bikes behind me. So all 4 of those guys, you know, they had some concession given, and somebody talked to the rider rep and argued their case.
So you've probably, just to circle back to the Triumph real quick, you probably broke John's heart by not recommending that anyone ride that bike because he's got a soft spot for the Triumphs. So beyond the extra cost and the difficulty to find parts, which I know all about because, like my dad, I'm an idiot and I like old Ducatis. How is the Triumph to ride, ignoring the cost and everything like that? How is it as a rider's bike?
The bike is awesome. I mean, I ran a Triumph back in 2012, I think was my first expert year. And I loved it, man. I loved it. It was a great bike. And it was nimble, very linear power delivery. So, like, you know, the R6, you've got to wring its neck out to go anywhere. I don't really like riding like that. That's why I tend to stick with twins. But I sure as fuck don't want to own a Ducati. I've been there. I raced a 1098. I raced a 1098 for half a season in 2013, and I damn near quit racing. I dropped the bike in Charlotte's Web, and it cost me $1,500 to fix it. It's the slowest damn turn on the track at Barber. We had 3 mechanical DNFs that year because of a fuse box issue. The air snorkels were collapsing on themselves. All kinds of stupid Ducati shit that I never want to deal with again. And Ducati owners, they're assholes, right? I'm pretty sure. All of the ones in South Florida are.
Hey, calling you out, man.
I'm half kidding. Only half kidding on that one.
Half kidding, yeah. No, I'll give you that.
But no, the Triumph is awesome. I really enjoy riding it now that I know it better. Because again, when we went to Atlanta with this thing, I didn't get a track day. I didn't fucking ride it around the block. My first time going more than 400 or 500 feet was in open practice for the MotoAmerica round. I didn't ride it. I didn't have any time. We kept having issues with the build, issues, supply chain issues, you know, trying to find someone to tune it. So I didn't have any time to ride it. And we made drastic ride height changes, drastic gearing changes just to make the thing rideable. And we, you know, did the best we could. But now, you know, I went to Jennings 3 weeks ago with the good engine in the bike and with the new suspension. And man, it was fucking lovely, to be honest with you. It rode really nice. It handled really well. Didn't do anything dumb. And it was dreary. Like the whole week, man, my fastest laps were in like 45-degree rainy weather. Like the track was wet. So didn't get a lot of real, gritty testing, but I did ride it, and it was notably better and faster. So the Triumph as a whole is really good, but there's you don't have the support or the supply chain or the parts or anything that you have with the GSXR or the R6 or hell, even the Ducati at this point. There's more people running those. So the Triumph is there. It's a great bike. I recommend everyone getting them so I can borrow parts from them. But yeah, I don't know. We'll find out this year now that the bike is better. And again, like, I'm racing guys that are better than I am. So everyone out there thinking about getting the Triumph, like, don't use me as your fucking marker, because I'm not great. I'm just a dude.
What would you say is the best bike you've raced? Because as far as I know, like going through your old pictures and stuff like that, you've been on everything at some point. So we know it wasn't the 1098. So which one would you say was your favorite?
Man, that's a good question. So I don't think you can blanket answer that, right? I think it's really what your intentions are. I think I had the most fun on old EX 500s.
Yeah.
I mean, and they're just stupid. Like, why the fuck would you race an EX 500? But they were a lot of fun. You could pick them up super cheap. They were kind of reliable. I don't know. I just had a lot of fun because with the classes that bike races in, you're racing all kinds of different machinery and a lot of really good people in the class too, like D Superstock, D Superbike. I don't know, even lightweight twins. I would bump up and run that thing. So I think I had some of my best times on that bike, and maybe only half of it had to do with what the bike was, but for track days, again, the SV650 is absolutely amazing, man. They're dead reliable. They handle really well. Fucking everybody has one, so parts are everywhere, and they're super cheap. But now if you want to race it seriously, you're going to get your ass beat. So don't buy it if you're serious about racing, even lightweight twins. I had a GSXR, an 06, 07 GSXR 600 that I really liked. Same reasons. It was like the Honda Civic, man. It never died, never gave me any trouble, threw it down a whole bunch, and it didn't break my bank to fix it. So, I've raced everything from 500 singles to 250 Ninjas, the Triumph, the Ducati, air-cooled Buell, 1125 Buell, CDRs. I mean, fucking everything. They're all great in their own way, except for that Ducati.
Which one would you recommend for endurance racing?
Endurance racing depends on the class, twins, man, and it depends on the budget too, because I mean the best twin out there is by far the Aprilia. I mean, you can race it pretty much stock. It's like a little super bike, man. It's an amazing machine. But I'm not going to go out and spend that much. I'm not going to spend 20 grand to fuck around in the lightweight class. That's kind of how the whole wreckers to checkers thing came about. But endurance racing, you can probably run this. So what I would do, if you're confident on a big bike and you want to run endurance and attempt to get in the money, is get a 1000, because it's got the smallest grid. There might only be 5, 6 1000s out there, and hell, you could ride a 750 or something and enter the 6000 or the 1000 class and be in the money. There were guys out there just throwing teams together and entering the 1000s and finishing fucking third place, because over the course of 4 hours, there's bound to be some attrition, right? And you're racing against the Dunlop test team, and you're racing against Army of Darkness. So there's 1 and 2. Yeah. So you just you're hoping that maybe you can get third, and it happens. And then again, that's if you're comfortable on a big bike, because I mean, and then the tire bill, you're going to use more tires running that class and all that. But we're did offer up a man, I don't remember what they call it, relay class or something. I think it's called the relay class, and it pays money, and each member runs their own bike, you know, so you can get 2 or 3 of your buddies and ride as a team. You're scored as a team, but you ride your own machine. So half of the battle getting into endurance racing is, well, who's going to pay for the bike? Who's going to keep the bike? How do we buy the bike? You know, who owns it? All that shit, all the I don't know, the moving parts of it.
Yeah.
So the relay has been great. There's been a lot of really fast guys come into endurance racing because of the relay class.
Yeah, I've seen those where, yeah, you just put in and you swap transponders real quick and next guy just goes.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Very cool.
I did it a couple of times.
It's a shame because the twins endurance racing used to be so competitive because you had the like TOBC SVs that were like pimped out making 80-90 horsepower but then they'd pop an engine every damn race versus the guys who were still pushing like 70 horsepower. And then the damn Aprilia came out with 100 horses out of the box or whatever the hell it is and just completely blew that class apart.
Yeah. I mean, so I've ridden endurance for the last 7 years maybe. And this past year, it was we had a couple of guys that filled in, but it was Greg Reisinger's team, which is Chief's racing team, and it was me and Chris Parrish, and again, we kind of had guys fill in. Our first rider that we got crashed the bike twice the first weekend, and then he crashed it once. No, he crashed it once. No, fuck, he did crash it twice the first weekend. And then, so that fucking killed that weekend. Even if we won, we were still out money, you know? And then he crashed it the next weekend, and Greg let him go. And then, hell, we were at Roebling, and Chris Parrish crashed our bike twice. And trying to make do on a bald tire. And Darren Crooks rode with us last year, but, you know, we should have had a really good team, and we had probably the worst fucking year that we've had in endurance. It's cost a bunch of money. It was a lot of heartbreak. It was a rough year. And we ran a 1 mil overbore SV, and you know, the bike probably makes 80 horsepower, and you know, then you got the Robham team out there testing their twins bikes, doing endurance with kids that are way faster than we are. And so, you know, and then so it was them. And then you had a few other teams. Blake Davis did a bunch of endurance stuff too, and Damian Jigaloff, and just a bunch of really fast pro kids. Gus Rodeo, and so, you know, we're out there racing them in endurance, and they're faster and they're on better shit. And we just hope that something would go wrong. Not that we don't like them, but nothing ever went wrong. They pretty much won everything they entered.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the endurance racing's sweet too, because you don't necessarily even have to be the fastest a lot of time. If your team's just consistent and, you know, you get your pit stops right and everything, you can still be pretty competitive. I mean, you're still not going to be, you know, these MotoAmerica teams that are out there, but you can still be relevant in those races. So yeah, and endurance is definitely getting popular now. I enjoy it a lot too.
Yeah, it's kind of weird because I think the endurance heyday was probably in the 90s. And I started racing in 09, and there was endurance, but not really strong. And then it went away. There just weren't enough people racing it. It took up too much of the day to make it financially viable, so they canceled it. And then N2 came along and started working with Wira to do, you know, work alongside their, I don't know the total deal of it, but you know, they started doing some of the track days before the race, and then they started working with Wira to formulate the endurance series again. And so I rode endurance a little bit before it went away, and then started racing again once it came back. And it's pretty strong. There's a lot of guys out there, and girls. There's a whole what do they call it? The bike experience, and you know, all these guys are paraplegic, and girls, guys and gals, and so they're out there riding with they don't have the use of their legs. They're missing an arm. They're missing a leg. They don't have any legs type shit. And like, that is so impressive. And just the fact that those guys are out there doing that to that degree and actually finishing well, none of them are slow. And then at the same time, you've got, legit, like, Hayden Gillam's out there running on an endurance team, and, just tons of other top-notch pro guys all scattered across the track, and, really good entries, really good racing.
What's it like being on track with those, like, just inhuman guys? Like you said it yourself, you're just a guy, you're a fast guy, but some of these people are just insane. What is it like racing with them? I know Joe touched on that his first pro race was just like a really eye-opening experience. He came back wearing more rubber than he left on the track. So did you have a similar experience? Does that ever get start to feel normal, or what's it like out there?
No, I mean, it's again, I don't really pay attention to a lot of what other people do. So I think that kind of just makes me kind of weird in the sport. So, when we're out there, some of the really fast guys, they pass you fast enough. It doesn't matter who the hell they are. You know what I mean? They could be anyone. We don't really know. And everyone's suited up and everyone's in their, multicolored bikes. Like, unless you know them and you've been near their machinery, like, you don't really know who the hell you're racing against. It could be anyone once you're out there. But it is eye-opening to be in the pits. I think that's the biggest eye-opener for me, is just how real it is and how serious it is. Like, it's pro racing, No one's out there and pounding beers when they get off. Well, maybe some of them are, but they're not doing this haphazardly. They're not doing this because they didn't have anything better to do, or they're not going to enter pro races because they're fucking bored. Like, they're doing it with the intentions of doing really well, and they put a bunch of resources into it. But to be in the pits, with a minivan and an open trailer with a pro bike going to run pro rounds against teams and semi-trucks with full-blown crews and drivers, and the rider's only job is to go fast on the track. I'm wrenching in the garage, I'm fixing the RV, I'm loading the trailer, I'm driving the RV to the race. I'm sleeping like 4 or 5 hours a night, and then trying to go fast and changing my tires in between and everything. It is a ton of work, and you almost got to be crazy to do it. But it's very satisfying just being able to stay, just to be out there, honestly. So the speed, I always knew that, the fast guys are going to be fast. And if you look at the Supersport grid this year, is holy shit. I mean, it is crazy. But at the same time, like, now, instead of being like, all right, the top 5 are going to be untouchable, now it's realistically like the top 10 or 12, no one's touching them. And so, like, even on a good day, you're battling for 15th or something. So I don't think the qualifying times are going to be better necessarily, but I think there are going to be more guys up front. So I think the racing will be amazing. I'm looking forward to it.
And how do you sort of, so, I mean, I imagine, we're all human. Even though you get on the track, right, and you're doing these crazy lap times, you're still human. And I'm sure you at least have to feel at least like a little bit of intimidation, right, when these dudes pull up with a freaking semi-trailer and 19 guys hop out. And so how do you, if you do feel intimidated, how do you deal with that and kind of manage that and still perform?
I don't know. I mean, honestly, I think I probably got some fucking social disorder. I'm probably a sociopath or something.
Interesting.
I really don't care, to be honest. And I don't have much of a filter, as you can tell in this interview. And you know, I'm not out there trying to make enemies, but I'm not out there trying to make friends. Like I don't give a shit. I don't care what anyone else is doing, you know. So you know, when we pull up to the races, really until I'm on the track, like we're just there to have a good time. You know, I want to have fun. I want to be cutting it up. I want to laugh. I want to make jokes. You know, if I am not having fun, and when I stop having fun, I'll just stop doing it. And I think a lot of people get really, really bent out of shape about what everyone else is doing. And, you know, I don't have the capacity to worry about that shit because it's not going to change anything that I'm doing. You know, I've only got so much money. I've only got so many hours in the day. I can only do what I can do. So my road racing is fairly reactive. You know, I kind of like, yeah, we're going to do this. And then we try to formulate a plan. But I really, you know, we really don't know what the hell we're doing until things start moving into play. And then we start doing those things. And not a whole lot of planning. So there's no time to worry about other people's stuff. So there's really no intimidation.
Yeah. So you have to drive. Well, first of all, you have to put the bike together. Then you got to load everything up. Then you got to drive to the track, which is going to be potentially an ungodly amount of hours of driving away.
Yeah.
You've also got a bunch of kids in tow. You've got family with you at all the races and stuff. I don't know how you do that. I mean, last time I went to Jennings, I had the bike and everything already on the trailer. All I had to do was get up at 3 a.m., put the trailer on the car, and drive there. And I was 5 minutes down the road when I realized I never strapped down the bike. I got it all strapped down and all sorted out, but I had almost nothing to worry about. How in the hell do you keep it all straight with everything you've got going on?
Man, I make a bunch of notes, to be honest. I make myself I got a notepad and I keep notes every day. At the end of the day, I've got a list of things that I want to accomplish the next day. And that's literally every day. Whether it's personal or with business, I have a list every morning when I wake up that says, today I've got to do this. And that's the same thing. You know, preparing for a race weekend, my preparation, because there's so many moving parts, it starts, you know, the thought of it starts the month before, really. And it's like, okay, we're going to do this. I make sure that, you know, the RV isn't going to catch on fire. I make sure the trailer isn't going to lose a wheel bearing on the way. And honestly, the week leading up to it, I make sure the bike is okay. And my stuff is the last stuff to be fixed. I've ran a motorcycle shop off and on for like 15 years. And that started when I started racing because, you know, I had to work on my own stuff. I couldn't afford to pay someone to do it. And then if you don't know the mechanics of the bike, you're putting yourself at a huge disadvantage at the track, outside of monetarily, you know. So there's a ton, and I'm bad with planning, but I'm good at making a plan, if that makes any sense whatsoever. And I think it comes down to just notes. And but yeah, we went to Jennings in February, and it was me and my buddy Mike, who's 70 years old, who's still out there racing motorcycles. Started racing when he was 59, believe it or not. He raced a little in the 80s, but he started racing again after he went through a divorce when he was 59 years old. And that's a lot, buddy. Kids. So they so me and Mike went down to Jennings, and Jennings is like 12 and a half hours, and it was me and him and my 6 kids. I have 6 children. They're all girls. And so in the front of the trailer, we had 2 race bikes, a generator, a scooter. And the back half of my 16-foot trailer had 8 bicycles. And, you know, honestly, I prepared more to have the kids there without their mom than I did, you know, planning the bike and stuff for the weekend, because, you know, I can't do this if the kids can't be a part of it, because it takes too much of your life. You know, if my kids weren't interested in it and I had to lock myself in the garage or something, like, I couldn't do it, because like I said, it would sacrifice too much time of theirs. Wouldn't be fair. So the kids are in tow, man. When we went to Atlanta, the kids didn't go, but their mom, Molly, went, and she's awesome. She plans a lot of it, man. She's packing the RV. She's making sure there's food. She's making sure the coolers are there and the fridge and the RV are working. And she's making sure that, really kind of scheduling, like, all right, we got to be at the track at this time. And she usually lies to me and gives me like a 2-hour buffer.
Yeah.
And so, but we went to MotoAmerica, and we had all the kids, man. It was all 6 kids, me, Molly, and it was really cool there. It was like, thank you. It was like communal, because we were pitted next to Stefano Mesa, and Stefano Mesa's sister had her daughter there. And so there were just 7 little girls all over the damn place the whole time. And, you know, my kids would mosey over to their pits and they would go play in the woods. And then, you know, we had Stefano's niece for a few hours each day. And hell, I didn't even know she was there half the time. She was a little dark complected, dark haired girl. I thought she was one of mine. But it was really cool. And, you know, it can be a family setting, you know, and it can be a party setting, but, you know, I couldn't race if it didn't involve the family at all. I wouldn't be able to do it.
That's awesome. So you look like you're getting a little more hectic over there. John, do you have any racing relevant questions before I ask something dumb?
I mean, there's like 1,000 questions just from the the Records to Checkers video alone, but I won't go too crazy. But I mean, I imagine, just real quick, not to go off on too much of a tangent either, but I imagine you have a lot of experience with like doing like mechanic work too, huh? Not just buying and selling bikes.
Yeah.
Get that bike ready.
Yeah, I mean, again, I got started in motorsports kind of late. So, you know, getting 21 when I got my first street bike, but I didn't know anything about motorcycles before then. And until I rode them, I was naive, and I had that mentality that they were dangerous, and, you know, there's no way I would do it, because I was inherently a car person. My whole family was into dirt racing, you know, dirt stock car racing. When I was younger, we went to the races, but never any motorcycles at all. It was always cars. And we just went to watch, to spectate. We didn't have a car or anything. But, you know, from the time I started driving, I had to work on shit, because we were poor, and I had to work on that. And then I got into bikes and had to work on that, and then started racing bikes and had to work on that. And yeah, that turned into, you know, full-blown business for me for a long time. And I had other professional jobs. You know, I was a credit counselor. I was a shipping receiving manager. I worked at GE doing combustor testing. And then I did industrial maintenance, and I closed the bike shop down back in October. And I started doing like specialty contracting. So I'm, you know, working on hammer mills and compressors and generators, and that turned into building security cages and doing perimeter protection in warehouses, and that turned into doing office remodels. And man, as long as we say yes, we keep getting work. So that has alleviated a lot of stress running the bike shop, and given new stress being like a contractor, you know. it's all new realm to me.
Yeah, and do you think, say, just the average Joe rider can take a bike and get it within the MotoAmerica stock without having too much technical know-how? Just for some of the listeners out there that are thinking about following that path.
So I think that is, if that is A and B, if A is getting a bike and getting on track, and B is MotoAmerica, it's completely doable. I mean, 100%. But you're going to need help. You're going to need help from someone that's done it. The MotoAmerica team is getting better. They're getting really good at answering questions, at fielding dumb questions. And, their website's pretty good as far as knowledge goes on what needs to be done to the bike and what's expected of a rider. But it's pretty daunting. And I think it would be really hard for someone to do it by themselves. Like, I don't even think physically you could do a pro round by yourself. You definitely have to have some help from some friends or something, just because you've got to meet times. You can only get tires put on at certain times of the day, depending on what class you're in. The schedule is very tight. Qualifying times, qualifying scheduling, and park form A. So, like, you've got to have someone there with you when you get off the track for inspection and whatnot. Fueling, getting the tire warmers, like everything. It's like doing a Wira weekend, but like amplified by 10. It is very intense, and which helps me because you don't have a lot of downtime to sit and fumble and think. You just keep on working. But I think if someone were to do, if their goal was to go from track days to MotoAmerica, you got to formulate a plan, because you can't just do it. You can just do a track day, that's for sure, with minimal planning. And with a little more planning, you can go run club racing, Wira or something. And with a little more planning, you can do endurance. And with a little more planning, you can run pro stuff. And hopefully get faster along the way.
Very cool. Thanks for answering that.
So this year you're throwing some more money at the Triumph. Obviously, you talked about the data acquisition, the motor, the suspension and stuff. Like you touched on, the top 12 or so is just insane budget, insane riders, Yeah. What is your kind of goal for this year personally? Obviously, you're not chasing race wins. Obviously, you want to have fun. Is that a positional goal or just a finding more speed goal? Like, what is it that you hope to achieve this year?
Last year, like I said, literally the goal last year was as cheap as possible, just make the show. This year, I'm not worried about making the show. I know the bike is that much better, and I'm more comfortable on the bike. And so I'm not worried about making the show. My goal is mid-pack finish. If there's 30 bikes, I would like to be able to touch 15th. But again, the top 12, maybe I need to readjust my goals. If I had this bike how it is now, last year, I think a mid-pack would be pretty realistic. Because you get big chunks, right? Like, you get the top guys that usually it's one guy that's just killing everybody in qualifying and whatnot. And then, because that's all that matters, because the race is the race. You've got to qualify to get in the race. So that's my whole goal the whole time. Once I'm in the race, it's just like, just try to pass the guy in front of me. But qualifying is really the goal, because that determines whether you can actually race that weekend or not. But you get groups, so you'll have, like, the first guy is obviously the fast guy that weekend in qualifying for whatever reason, and then you'll have like 3 or 4 guys that are within like a 1/10 of a second from each other, and that continues. Then you'll have like a little gap, and there'll be a big mid-pack group where there's like 8 guys that are essentially running the same time. and you just have that. So like, you know, if you're out there and you're faster than one guy, and you look at your times, and you're like, hell, if I drop 1 second on paper, you could pick up 10 positions. So again, it's like the times, I'm not worried about making it, but with that bigger new group coming in, I think, you know, the positioning will be moved back a little. So the goal is to be able to finish 15th at some point this year. And, you know, I think last year there were 32, 36 guys qualifying and entering. I think 42 at one round entered. And, you know, so I guess technically that's beyond half pack, but that's the goal. We'll see what happens.
Very good. I hope it works out. What track are you most looking forward to?
Road America, and it's not even the track. The track is amazing. If you've never ridden there, there's no other track like it. It's wild. It's a lot of fun. But Road America has like an aura, man. Like the fans in Wisconsin are amazing. Like there's so much. Like everyone is happy. Everyone is really nice. Man, there's huge parties all over the place. And I don't know what makes those people out there so amped up about pro racing, but it's a whole different vibe. But we're gonna do Road Atlanta, which is in like, shit, man, that's 3 weeks, I think. We'll do Road Atlanta, which I love Road Atlanta. It's one of my favorite tracks, even though I'm really not that good at Road Atlanta. Like I do okay, but it's not really my strong track. So we'll do Road Atlanta, and then we've got Road America, which I'm really looking forward to. Again, we've got a bunch of friends that we pit with there, like, you know, out in the campground, and, you know, big families. So we have like this whole tribe of children running around barefoot and crazy. And so the kids have a great time out there. Like I said, a bunch of friends out that way. And then after Road America, we'll do Mid-Ohio as far as the pro rounds go. And Mid-Ohio, I mean, really, that's my home track, but I only go there once a year. So there's other tracks that are way further away that I ride more often, just because they're on the race schedule. Mid-Ohio hasn't been on a race schedule since 2014, I think, because the pavement was so bad, they just quit going. You know, MotoAmerica, and at the time, AMA Pro was just like, yeah, we're not coming back until you guys fix this place. It got a repave in October and instantly was back on the schedule. So I'm really looking forward to that, because, you know, there's probably going to be a lot of people that I know there. So I'm looking forward to that. And then I'm not sure. I think that'll probably conclude our pro schedule for the year. You know, like you touched on earlier, racing, man, all of my kids race. The 4-year-old will start racing a PW this year. But my kids are from 16 to 4. The 16-year-old races cars, and I race cars with her. And then 13-year-old races a little KLX 110 flat track, and my 11-year-old does, and the 8-year-old races a KTM 50, and the 6-year-old races a KTM 50, and like I said, the 4-year-old is coming on. So that's all we do, man, is work and race. And you know, occasionally we do family stuff like this. But yeah, a lot of working and racing, man. And like I said, we're just trying to make memories, you know. And racing does amazing stuff. You know, you can't be lazy and race. So you got to make money, you got to have skills, you've got to know people, and that's really what it's all about. You know, racing is amazing, but you know, in 30 years, I'm going to look back and think about all the memories I made, you know, not just being on a motorcycle.
Yeah. Yeah. So a while back, you bought a fire truck with like lights and sirens and all that crap. I didn't know you could just buy something like that and then just drive it around. How did that all come about?
So with the car racing, I wanted to be able to haul 2 race cars because my daughter started racing cars when she was 14. She raced flat track quads before that and go-karts before that. And they changed the rules locally that eliminated the youth ATV class. So at that point, she was going to have to run, 450s with dudes that have been doing the shit for 20 years, And as a 14-year-old girl, she was kind of intimidated by it. I'm like, well, what do you want to do? And she's like, well, can I race cars? I was like, fuck yeah, let's build a car. So we got a front-wheel drive dirt car for her, which was built off a Ford Focus platform. And she started racing cars, and I still had a dirt late model at the time. And I couldn't handle the maintenance because it's very time-consuming, man, just like racing bikes, but more time in the garage because in between car racing, man, like if you're racing on dirt, you got to jack the car up. You got to pressure wash it. You got to nut and bolt check it. There's 2 more tires. There's 2 more sets of suspension. It's a lot more involved. And so I ended up selling my late model. And I'm like, I need something that, and I told her that I would build a car and race with her, as a father-daughter bonding thing. And that's went amazing. It's really cool to be out there with your kid, man. And in motorcycle racing, it'd be like Aaron Yates and his kid out there battling each other. It's so cool. It's just a whole new perspective. But I wanted to be able to haul 2 cars at one time. So I started looking like, okay, the truck isn't big enough to haul a 2-car trailer. So 2-car trailer's kind of out of it. I'm like, I could buy a U-Haul and maybe put, because newer trucks, big diesel trucks are crazy expensive.
Yeah.
But you can buy an old U-Haul for $8,000, $6,000. And then I was looking at things that had a large body and a strong engine so I could pull 2 cars at one time. Somehow I ended up looking at fire trucks. And yeah, man, you can buy it just like guys buy surplus cop cars. You can buy an ambulance. You can buy a pump truck, a fire truck. You can buy a ladder truck, man. So me and my aunt, I did a bunch of research, called around a bunch, and me and my aunt drove up to Cleveland, and I bought a fucking fire truck, and I drove it. I don't know anything until I started looking. I didn't know anything about fire trucks, and really I still don't. And I drove this fire truck about 5 hours home. And it was the coolest shit I've ever driven in my life. The sirens and the lights and the horns. And I needed something that would haul 5 people and be strong enough to pull 2 race cars. So we got this thing home, and then me and a buddy of mine, a fabricator buddy, started to make a plan to lift the body off of it, the tank and the pump equipment, to build a wedge back trailer. And very quickly I realized how dumb of an idea it was, because the bed on the thing weighed 10,000 pounds. We couldn't lift it. We couldn't get it off of the frame without destroying it. So I ended up just keeping it for like 6 months and terrorizing my neighborhood. Like, dude, I was going to Tractor Supply in a fucking fire truck with my kids, running errands. I drove it to the grocery store, man. I drove it to work one day. It was really cool. And we had a birthday party, and I drove anybody that wanted to ride in a fire truck. We drove them around the neighborhood, man, and it was a ton of fun. And I ended up, like I said, realized it wouldn't work for what I needed. Didn't make sense, so I ended up selling it. Made some money on it. And then I ended up, we built a 2-car trailer, and I got a bigger truck.
Well, hey, you've said it's all about the memories. The kids will never forget that Dad used to have a fire truck.
Yeah, man, and I mean, might go buy another one for the hell of it. You can get them for like $5,000. I mean, because there's not a huge market for fire trucks, right? Like,
no.
The municipality has a fire truck. What the hell do you do with it when you're done?
Yep.
So
You got anything else going?
No, that's it, man. Just thanks for coming up here with us, Brian. Man, we appreciate it. And definitely, very knowledgeable guy. And like I said, I enjoy watching your content. So I'm sure everybody, is also going to love hearing from you and just sort of hearing behind the scenes and how everything went down with all that.
Awesome. Yeah, I appreciate it, man. We are mobilizing the guys to do some more videos. We were supposed to have another one at the end of last season, but they bought some new cameras, and when they moved all of the footage, they lost 100% of the audio. So
no.
they've just got hours and hours of silent people and motorcycles with no engine noises, So I don't know what they're doing. They're going to dub over some of that, just do it a little bit differently, but they're supposed to be on board to make new content for this season. And, I think it'll be a little less building and a lot more, behind the scenes racing stuff. But it'll be a ton of fun. I'm looking forward to it.
Very perfect. I look forward to it. Do you have anything you want to pimp, like social media channels, anywhere people can, I don't know if you have shirts or anything, like buy anything to help out your race program, like any, this is to your benefit as well. Anything that can help you out, let us know.
We really don't. Like I said, I pay for it out of pocket. I do want to give a shout out to NV Racing Apparel. Man, he came on, Darwin, and somebody wrote him when we were at Road Atlanta. I was wearing my AXO suit from 2012, and it still fit. It was still in good shape, and it fit so well. And someone wrote him and was like, "Hey, there's a dude out there running Supersport in a fucking 10-year-old suit." So Darwin reached out to me and was like, "Hey, man," and by the way, that person that reached out to him wasn't even in the United States. He was from like Cuba or something. And I don't know how he found us, but so Darwin reached out to me and literally was like, "Hey, man, do you want a suit?" And I'm like, what does this entail, And there was nothing. There was no trickery. There was no bullshit. He literally sent information over and sized me for a suit. And in record time, man, I'm talking like 2.5 weeks. I had a custom suit, gloves, Under Armour for nothing. And he has done that historically with tons of riders, man. He not saying that people should reach out to him and ask for a free suit, but if he sees someone as deserving, he's done a lot of donations with his time and his materials, and the suit is amazing. I haven't crashed in it yet, thank God, but huge shout out to him for hooking me up. And also Kevin Drummer Exhaust, he's in South Carolina. And when Buells were real popular, Kevin builds amazing exhaust systems for Buells. And same thing, man. My friend Michael Bailey was down at Road Atlanta, and he reached out to Kevin, and he's like, "Dude, Tuna's out here with a Chinese muffler, stock head pipes, and we made our mid pipe. We literally took 2 SV650 mid pipes and got the angles we wanted, and it was just a jank ass exhaust system." And so Michael Bailey reached out to Kevin and was like, "Tuna needs an exhaust," and Kevin wrote me and was like, "Hey, man, if you come down here to Statesville, South Carolina, and give me your time, me and you will build an exhaust system for your bike and at no charge." And I drove about 9 hours to Kevin's shop, and man, I got there at like 6 o'clock. We started work about 7 o'clock, and we worked all night. I left his shop at 7:30 in the morning and drove all the way back home. Didn't sleep for God knows how long, and we made head to toe an exhaust system for my bike. So the system that's on the bike is a one-off, and he sent me a different muffler at one point because he wasn't happy with the design. He thought it would make more power with a different cone. And he had me send part of the exhaust back to him at one point, and he redid it and sent it back to me. So those two guys have been, last year they were a huge help. And then, man, I feel like I'm missing someone, but I mean, that's the big part. I got this year's Sunstar Sprockets, which owns Brake King brake pads. They're giving me, no free stuff, but they're giving me some killer pricing so I can, get some better rotors and better pads on the bike, and chains as well for gearing and sprockets too. So now we're a little bit more prepared on the hardware side, thanks to them. And, that's even Mark Young had Bezra Mark Young, who's up near Mansfield, Ohio. He is helping me out this year. I've got my bikes up there right now to be dyno tuned, and he's going to help me a little bit with the telemetry, because that's all black magic to me. I don't know how to take the data and make it make sense. And even if I did, I don't have time to do it at the track. So he's willing to help me out a little bit this year and help me make sense of some of the data that we get. So in theory, I should be able to look at the data and tell where I'm slow, where I could pick up speed, and what I'm doing wrong, which I'm sure is an exhausting list of things to improve on. But he's going to help with that. And then I guess also, I can't even believe that I forgot, but Jamie Doherty at DMR Performance Suspension. Jamie has helped me out. He's been like a sponsor of mine, man, and a friend since like 2012. And he's done all my suspension work on every bike I've had. And he worked over a TTX shock for me that I got really cheap that was probably should have been thrown away. And he reworked it for me and reworked my suspension. And he was my crew chief for all purposes last year, just, helping alleviate some of my thought process while I was at these pro rounds, and, helping me just navigate how to do better. So big thanks to all of those people. And Molly, my lady, Molly McDonald, is pretty amazing. Again, hanging with the kids and handling life so that I can devote so much time to this stuff.
Can I have 2 pieces of candy?
What do you want?
Okay.
What's up?
Yes. Sorry.
You're good, man. You're good.
The 4-year-old
That's
is
awesome.
asking, she's asking for candy.
She finally got the yes she was looking for.
Yeah, after she eats her food.
Yeah, well, there you go. Perfect. Well, that's awesome, man. That's part of what we're doing here with the Florida Moto Talk, is just trying to bring bike people together. And I mean, you're the perfect story of that. You got people you don't even know reaching out and helping out and stuff like that. It's this weird, expensive, dangerous, but super friendly niche that we're all in with this sport. And I think people don't expect that when they get into it. They see the guys. I mean, I just did 6 hours on the highway yesterday, and all I saw was guys on sport bikes riding like complete assholes. And that's not what this community is at all. So it's good to hear, and I'm glad you're getting some help. And man, I hope this year you hit that goal and you have some success out there.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. It's again, even if we don't hit the goal, we're still gonna have fun doing it. That's the whole purpose.
Yeah.
And not go broke doing it.
Yeah.
No remortgaging the house, no maxed out credit cards. I made it a point when I started racing to not use credit cards at all. And I remember early on working in the shops, we had gas money to go to the track, like literally didn't have money unless someone picked up a bike 2 days prior or something. And not saying that that's the best way to do it, but diversify your income and make it happen.
Yeah. Yep. Well, I think that about does it. We'll let you get back to your Easter family time. I really appreciate you doing this with us. This was awesome, as I knew it would be. You got anything else, John?
No, just like I said, thanks for taking the time to be here with us, man. I know it's hard to get away from family sometimes, so we really appreciate you. Just find a little bit of time where we can just share some knowledge with everybody. Appreciate it.
Yeah, man. I hope it helps. Maybe it'll get some people on the track. Hopefully, it doesn't scare anyone away. But I think it's cool what you guys are doing. If the more platforms are out there to talk about bike racing and track days and stuff, the easier it'll be for people to get out there. The more resources, So I've talked with a bunch of people and helped get them on the track. I don't think many of them are still doing it because it is such a sacrifice. There's way easier things you could do, but I haven't found anything that gives the same feeling,
Yeah. Awesome. All right, man. Well, we're gonna close this one off. We'll all be keeping an eye on you next year, tracking those results, and say hey to everyone at home.
Absolutely. Thanks, guys.
Yeah. See ya.